Podcast Answer Man, episode number 228.
Entertaining, educational, and encouraging content that makes a difference. This is GSPN.TV.
Join the community. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Podcast Answer Man. My name is Cliff Ravenscraft, and this is the podcast about podcasting, helping you take your show to the next level. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new podcaster, if you've been podcasting for many years, or you haven't quite yet recorded that first episode. There's something we can all do to take our show to the next level. Well, my friends, welcome back to another episode of Podcast Answer Man. I am delighted to bring to you a very special edition of this podcast. I'm actually recording the entire episode. Absolutely nothing that you hear in this episode is being recorded on anything other than a digital audio recorder. In fact, I'm using the Roland R-05 recorder right now to record what you're hearing at this very moment. The music that you heard at the front of the show there, the audio network ID, all that stuff added in post-production. That's right, my friends. I'm going old school just to show you what you can do with a single piece of equipment and why oftentimes when people say, hey, I'm really on a tight budget, where should I start? What's one piece of equipment that I can buy to get started in podcasting and not have to worry about, basically wasting my money when I go to upgrade my gear? And I always say you should start off with a digital audio recorder. And this is why. Because right now I am recording this and it sounds halfway decent. Now, I wouldn't want to tell you right now that this entire episode is going to be completely unique when it's compared to all of my other podcast episodes, because I'm just going to be going around in different environments to explain to you the different uses and the different ways the digital audio recorder will sound. Now, of course, again, everything that I'm going to be doing today is referring to the Roland R-05 recorder. It is currently my favorite recorder. It took a while before I kind of got over the loss of the Edirol R-09HR being made and in production, but there are some reasons I like this Roland R-05 better. I like the display in sunlight. It does not require any kind of backlight at all. And the battery life on the R-05 is amazingly awesome. And there's just a couple other features that I like about the Roland R-05. It doesn't make sense that they go from R-09HR to R-05 as the newer model, but that's exactly how they've done it. And just want to let you know, I'm going to be sharing with you different things. Now, basically, I'm going to suggest to you right now that I think that this actually sounds pretty darn good, considering the fact that I'm using nothing more than the onboard condenser microphones built into this unit. That's the other thing. Because it is condenser microphones, I noticed that when I stop talking and I take a deep breath like that, you hear it. But, still, I could control my breathing and I could probably be in a more relaxed state and kind of do that and stuff. So, there are things I could train myself to do better if this was all I had to work with. Now, let me explain to you something real quickly here. Why is it that I'm actually sounding halfway decent with onboard condenser microphones? Because I am inside, by the way. I am inside my house recording with nothing more than the Edirol. However, I am standing in my closet. I am actually standing in my closet. And basically, and it's not even a walk-in closet. It's one of those shallow closets with the two sliding doors. And in the closet are a bunch of shirts. And what I've done is I've parted two t-shirts, and I have them in a triangle where in front of me they're kind of touching, shirt to shirt, and then the other ends are kind of like at my shoulder. So I'm kind of huddled in a triangle with my body and the two t-shirts making a triangle and holding the Edirol recorder just below my chest and speaking into the t-shirts. And so that's how I'm able to do this without getting a lot of echo in the background. So this is one thing that I can tell people to do is like you could go into, hopefully maybe you have a walk-in closet or something like that, turn the gain down pretty low, but still try to get as close as you can to 12-6, and of course I'm trying to compensate here. I really want to avoid some echo, so I'm actually only hitting just above -20 on the decibel scale here on the display. But it's giving me good audio. I'm actually listening to myself speak through a pair of iPhone earbuds that are plugged into the headphone jack. So I'm able to monitor the sound. In fact, I'm actually going to turn the volume up. So I actually no, it's all the way up. So it's already at 60, which why don't the volumes go all the way up to 100? That doesn't make sense. Anyway, but here I am. I'm actually recording. I'm pretty happy with this sound. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you into some other environments and give you an idea of what it's going to sound like. And so the next place I'm going to go is into my studio, and I'm going to record, just in the studio without, being hiding in the closet. So hold on one second. I'll be right back. Okay, so here I am now in my studio. Now this is the same recording space that I normally record my Podcast Answer Man episodes in. And of course, you can tell automatically that this sounds a lot different. It sounds like I'm maybe in a dungeon somewhere. There's certainly a lot of echoing of my voice off of the walls in here. Nothing here is soundproofed, sound treated by any stretch of the imagination. It's just pretty much an echo chamber. However, normal episodes of Podcast Answer Man sound really great, and the reason why is because when I'm in studio, I'm using a great dynamic broadcast microphone, the Heil PR40 microphone, and so that really gets rid of a ton of echo, because it's not powered condenser microphones like what's built into here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a drawer in here. Actually, no, you know what? It's over here in my briefcase. I have an interview microphone, a dynamic microphone that I have specifically for interviews. And to be honest with you, I don't use it very often because I really don't feel like I need to. One of the things that I would personally do, and I'm just going to set the recorder down here on the table now. So before I was in the studio holding this, and of course listen to that. The water heater just now kicked on, and I mean you can hear this is just me moving things around. This is one of the issues that you'll have with condenser microphones. Is that you can hear everything. Of course, this is a good thing too if you have the right environment. What I was about ready to say though is if I was going to record an episode using this gear, I'm going to go over here and get another piece of gear here. Okay. If I was going to record an episode or an interview with this microphone, I would avoid sitting in somebody's office where it's supposedly quiet, because you know what? Even here's me pressing keys on a calculator. I mean, let me give you another example that you have to watch out for when with condenser microphones. So check this out. I am grabbing a notebook here, and I'm just going to write. There you go. That was just me writing on a piece of paper. So condenser microphones can be quite annoying, but they can be great as well if you have the right atmosphere. And we'll hopefully be able to find some of that for you. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually now going to switch over to an interview microphone. Now, the Roland R-05 has a 1/8 inch jack line-in port, so I can bring in audio directly from my mixer into the digital audio recorder. That's how I'm always recording my shows, except for today, obviously. But I'm always bringing, speaking into my professional gear, bringing audio clips into my mixer. Everything's brought into my mixer and coming out of my mixer, and then shooting out of the tape output of my mixer into the line in port, the 1/8 inch line in port of this recorder. And therefore, that's how I'm recording things. Now, there's also a 1/8 inch microphone in port, and there are cables out there. I've got a cable in my hand right in front of me. I'll describe it to you. It's got a 1/8 inch plug on one end that's going to go into the mic port on here, and then the other end is an XLR male plug, and that's going to plug right into the microphone that I have here. And I'm going to tell you what microphone I have. This is a professional quality interview microphone. It is the Electro-Voice RE50B. RE50B. Now, can you use a Shure SM58 out in the field? Yes, you can. However, the Electro-Voice RE50B is amazing in that it has kind of a built-in windscreen and some other special ways that it's manufactured to allow you to be out in even a windy environment and really get a good sound out of it without putting a big foam windscreen on it. And it's also built for very low handling noise, so you can hold this in your hand and not worry about it transferring a lot of sound into your recording. And it just looks so darn professional. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay here in the studio. I'm going to pause for just a second while I plug this microphone into the recorder here and give you a sample of what that sounds like. Okay, so here I am. I am now in my studio still, and I am using the Electro-Voice RE50B and speaking directly on top of this microphone. You'll notice that when I'm not talking, you don't hear all of that other stuff that was going on in the background. You don't hear the water heater going in the background. You don't hear the massive echo off the sides of the walls. And in fact, I'm going to even show you one other thing. That I'm going to actually hook up the Heil PR40 directly to this recorder and give you an idea of what that sounds like. Okay, so here I am. I am now talking into the Heil PR40 microphone. Now, this is in my studio. Again, still no echo from the walls in the studio here. There is no mixer involved at all. And this is me talking into the professional Heil PR40 broadcast microphone using that special cable with the XLR on one end and 1/8 inch plug on the other end, going directly into the microphone input. And this, my friends, is how it sounds. So there's a bit of a more full, natural body voice sound that's represented from the Heil PR40. There's no question about that. So here I am. I'm going to, let's see if I can say the same phrase. This is the Heil PR40 microphone. All right, now I'm going to switch over to the Electro-Voice. And this is not the Heil PR40 microphone. All right, so again, this is not the Heil PR40 microphone. And I'll switch back. And this is the Heil PR40 microphone. So you can hear a more full body voice or sound from the Heil. But anyway, I just wanted to demonstrate to you that you can use dynamic microphones plugged in to the Roland recorder, and it's a next perfect step. So people who say, okay, I want to buy, I can only afford to buy things one piece at a time. So you start off with the Roland recorder and just use the internal microphones. And then you can easily add one dynamic microphone. You don't even have to go and buy a mixer at this point. You could actually go straight and get the Heil PR40 next, and then just get this cable and plug it right into your Roland recorder. Okay, I'm now going to see if I can find another environment to give you an example of some other things you can do here. All right, my friends, this right here, I'm going to tell you, is my favorite environment to record interviews or to record audio. with just the internal microphones on my recorder. And it is simply outdoors. You notice there is no echo at all anywhere of my voice. And what do you hear? You hear crickets and all kinds of other stuff going on in the trees. Because I live close to the airport, I'm going to be silent for just a minute. Just you'll hear a car that's just driving off. I hear cars racing down the street somewhere far away, and I hear the airport down the road. But you know what? This is an environment. It kind of gives you the feel that you're here with me, and I kind of like this environment. No matter where I'm at, I don't mind the sounds. I don't mind the crickets. I don't mind this because in a way it's kind of like you're here with me, and it's one of my favorite ways to record a podcast. Now listen to this, and now, by the way, this I should have told you at the beginning of this episode that all of this is done better with having headphones on or something like that. There was just a moment ago a slight breeze. Now, right now on the Roland recorder, I do not have a windscreen on here. Now, the Roland R-05 comes with a windscreen. Honestly, I don't like it. I went out and bought a cheap little foam windscreen that would normally go over something like a Shure SM58, and I put it on my Roland recorder and then cut out around. You took a pair of scissors and cut out around the display, and it works much better as a windscreen. But since it's not so windy right now, I'm out here and not using a windscreen, but I brought it just with me just in case it does get windy, so I can demonstrate to you what the wind would sound like. But it doesn't look like it's going to be that much of an issue here. But I just want to let you know, whenever I go outside, sometimes I'll bring this along just in case it is windy. Next thing I'm going to do is go into my car, and I'm going to sit in the car and record. Hold on one second. Okay, so I am now sitting in my car. Now, obviously, I'm really sitting just inches away from where I was before, but you don't hear the crickets, you don't hear the airplanes, you don't hear a lot of other noises. The car's not running, it's just quiet, and the car is, I wouldn't call it soundproof, but it certainly sounds a lot better than maybe sitting in my studio. And I want to tell you, I could see myself occasionally saying, hey, you know what, let's sit down in the car here and record an interview together. Now the thing is of course, temperature is a huge factor here, because you wouldn't want the windows down. Matter of fact, I think somebody had asked me, what if I was to be in my car and I roll the windows down? What would it sound like? And so let me pull my keys out and turn this on, and I'll roll the windows down. All right, there we go. And this is what it sounds like. And so it obviously does not sound the same as what it does as if you're outside, because you can hear my voice is still echoing off the windshield in here. And so and of course it's so I still sound like I'm in the car, even with the windows down right now. And again, I'm gonna you hear, just barely hear, the sounds around me. Now hold on, let me I've got these power windows. Hold on. So this is what it sounds like now, and I'm gonna put the windows up. Actually, my battery says, okay, you haven't used it for a while. There we go. All right. And here it is with the windows up. So obviously it does provide a great sound barrier, but you can still tell that I'm in here. Now, one of the things that you can do, and you could even do this in the studio, and I've talked about this in the past, is you could actually turn your gain down and get closer to the microphones. Now, you want to avoid doing this. You don't want to talk right into the microphones, because you hear the wind from my mouth at certain points when I'm talking, and you also occasionally will get a popped P. All right, and so you don't want to do that. So what I'm doing here is I've got the gain turned way down right now. All right, and now I have I'm looking here and I see that I'm still not quite as loud as what I would want to be, but I'm right up here next to the microphone where my mouth is probably about an inch over top of the recorder, but speaking directly over top of the recorder. And even still, I'm getting a little, wind sound and popping sound. So it's not the greatest solution there, but it certainly cuts down. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. But, you can play around with it. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling the microphone or the gain up so that I can pull the recorder further from my mouth, and that completely eliminates the popping P sound and the wind sounds. You notice, and by the way, you still hear me blowing like that, but it doesn't sound like that. That's the difference. And I'm sorry if you had your headphones on. Of course you have your headphones on. I told you to have your headphones on. But anyway, this is what it sounds like inside of a car. All right. And so I'm going to go back outside because I want to give you another sound of outside with the onboard, but then give you another idea of what it sounds like outside with me using the Electro Voice microphone. So if I was outside with the airplanes and the crickets and everything else, how would that sound on the Electro Voice? So I'm going to go back outside now. Okay, so here I am, back outside. I hear the crickets. I hear traffic noises from the road. Currently not hearing an airplane at this very moment in time, but I'm sure it'll come back. But what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to pause this time. I'm just going to plug in the microphone, and it's going to, let me put my keys back in my pocket. I'm not even going to pause this time, and so you're going to hear me plugging it in, and it's going to go, the sound's going to go away for just a second while it transitions over to the Electro Voice microphone that's been plugged in, and you're going to hear the immediate difference. Okay, so here I am. So now, and I'm going to turn up the input volume just a little bit. Okay, so here I am outside, and in fact, this is the exact level of what I want to be. Now, right there, I do hear a little bit of handling noise. All right, but but trust me, I was moving my hand a lot to get that. All right, so what I would do is, in the Electro Voice is made in such a way that you can get a good, firm grip on this microphone. And once you do, you really shouldn't be moving your fingers or anything like that at all, so you won't have any handling noise as long as you have a good firm grip and you just white knuckle it for a little bit. But anyway, I'm out here, I'm outside, and I'm talking into an Electro Voice microphone. Now, what I would do in this scenario is when I'm talking, I point the microphone to me, and when the other person is talking, I would point the microphone to them. And this is what it would sound like. And I'm outside in the same noisy environment. But again, I actually like the crickets. I like the background noise. It kind of gives a sound and a feel. And in fact, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to insert in post-production an audio clip from when I did an interview with Mignon Fogarty who is also known as Grammar Girl. But I did an interview with her in a restaurant, and just to give you an idea of what it sounded like. And the recorder was just sitting on the table. We were at a booth, and my wife and I and Mignon was there, and it was just an amazing conversation that we had, and the recorder was just sitting on the table. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you right now. In Podcast Answer Man. So I want to talk to you about your podcasting, because obviously you guys have a network. But before we talk about the network, I want to ask, how did you get into podcasting? You were a technical writer.
Right.
And you have a passion for grammar.
Right.
So explain just real quickly.
I fell into it. It was my hobby. I was working as a technical writer, and I was bored, and I love technology, and I wanted to try something new. And it was in middle of 2006, and I heard about this thing called podcasting, and I thought I'd give it a try. So I did a science podcast first. I did Absolute Science for about 8 months, and that won awards, and it did well, but it was never going to be a business. It wasn't big enough. And so I was looking for something simpler to do, because that show took me 20 hours a week to produce. I didn't know what I was doing. I was learning how to do the audio. I had a co-host who I had to schedule with, and he was remote, so we had to merge the audio together, and then sometimes we would interview a third person, and it just took a lot of time. And so I thought about, I was looking for something simpler to do, and so doing quick scripted tips by myself seemed as if it would take a lot less time, and grammar was something I was interested in, so that was what I did, and I just threw it up on iTunes, and it was in the top 100 within 3 or 4 weeks, and it's been there ever since.
Yeah, so basically the whole idea here, and I consult with a lot of people to train them about podcasting, and a lot of people say, how can I, I'm trying to figure out what I want to podcast about, and what can I do that's going to get me, tons of listeners. Yeah. And I'm like, no. Forget about the number of listeners, and what is it that you're most passionate about? What is it that drives you? I mean, what is it that, you would just talk about all day long and people would be interested in hearing what you have to say? Yeah. That's really the place to start with podcasting, because otherwise you're going at it in a way that people love listening to passion, and I'm okay with listening to a topic that I don't necessarily find exciting myself, but if I hear that the person who's talking about it is sold out, passionate about it, I get excited about it.
I do too. I subscribe to the Slate podcasts, and they put all their shows on the same feed, and they launched a new show called, it's a sports podcast, and I would never in a million years choose to listen to a sports podcast on my own, but it just came on the feed, and I listened to it because it was there, and it's wonderful, and they're so excited about it, and I've actually learned things about sports that are fascinating, and I listen to this show every week. It's crazy. I mean, never, if you'd asked me would I listen to a sports podcast, I would have said no. Why would I ever do that? But they're great.
Well, there you go, my friends. That is the interview I did with Mignon Fogarty. Wow, I had so much fun talking with her. Just listening to that clip reminds me of what it was like to be there. It does. I just feel, if you put your headphones on, you can listen to that clip and you literally feel like you're at the restaurant with us. And I absolutely loved it. Anyway, real quickly here, by the way, I'm back in the studio. That's why you hear my voice echoing and everything like that. That's because I just don't feel like going up to the closet to finish this episode. But if I only had this recording or this recorder, that's probably what I would do, is I would go into a place that's either going to give me a better environment, or I would probably go into the closet to record. But I'm not going to do that here. I am, however, going to explain to you how I can bring in audio clips into my show when I only have this digital audio recorder. 2 different ways I'm going to do it. First, I'm going to play a clip. And by the way, I just loaded up, whatever way you feel like you want to do it, put the audio clips, the voicemail feedback that you get for your show, onto your iPod or your iPhone. I have mine on my iPhone. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play it through the little speaker here. I'm going to take a call from Jason, and I'm literally just going to hold the speaker of my iPhone up to the onboard microphones, and we're going to hear Jason. Now, normally I would put this into airplane mode. I'm not going to do that. Hopefully we won't get interrupted with a tweet or a notification that comes through. So Jason, take it away, my friend.
Hi, Cliff. This is Jason Piles calling from Salt Lake City, Utah, with a question for the podcast Answer Man. Could you please tell me what kind of sweet words I need to say to get iTunes to update my artwork for the Best Picture podcast? I thought I had done it correctly, but for weeks now, I still have that default armless, legless, purple podcasting guy. So thanks, Cliff. You're the best.
All right, so there you go. That, again, I was just holding my iPhone literally up to the onboard microphones. It's as simple. You don't get any easier than that, my friends. And of course, I'm going to answer Jason's question. Jason, the answer to your question is this. There's nobody that you need to talk to. You just need to have your RSS feed configured properly. And of course, if you're following my instructions, which I'm pretty sure you are, you have set up your FeedBurner feed. And so what you want to do is you want to go into FeedBurner, sign in, click on your feed, and then what you want to do is under the SmartCast option, then what you'll do is you'll see on the right-hand side, it'll say, podcast URL. So you paste in the URL to what I recommend now is your 600 by 600 pixel artwork. and then you click preview just to make sure that the image is coming up. And as long as you do that, click save your settings at the bottom. And in fact, one of the other things I might even encourage you to do, I don't think it's necessary, but go over to the Troubleshootize tab, scroll down to the bottom and click Resync Now. Just go ahead and do that. All right. And if you do that, it should automatically pick up your image in iTunes if you did, in fact, submit your FeedBurner feed to iTunes. All right. Now, here's the situation. Now, of course, it seems to me like you maybe did not have an piece of artwork, and now you're adding one. Now, if you've just added your artwork, it's not going to show up immediately. Let me just explain to you. This is just a directory listing, and if you can imagine like the Yellow Pages, let's just say the Yellow Page, the local phone company just printed a copy of the Yellow Pages a few, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden you just rented a new space and set up your business, this week. Well, you call up the phone company, you get your business account listed, you actually say, hey, this is what I want my business account to look like and stuff like this. And when you set up your Yellow Pages, when you do all of that, the thing is your information, your telephone number for your business is not going to be in the Yellow Pages until the next year, the next time that they print a new book and distribute it to everyone. So you're just not going to be in there until the next time they get around to reprinting. Now, let's just say that you've been in business now for a while, and and during this entire time, you never did put a picture of yourself in your Yellow Pages ad. All right, but you do have the name of your business, you got your logo and everything like this, and then all of a sudden, the next time they reprint the Yellow Pages and distribute to everybody, now you're in there. But then let's just say you go to this marketing seminar and they say, the fact is that you get 80% more results on people who will call you if you have a picture of yourself in your Yellow Pages ad. So it's like, oh man, that's amazing. So now you spend some money, have your Yellow Pages ad redesigned to include your photo, and you submit that to the people over at the Yellow Pages. And guess what? It's not going to show up until the next year when they reprint a new book. Now, the thing is iTunes is no different in that they are a directory and that they are not live and immediately, instantaneously updating your changes. So what this means is, now the good news is that you don't have to wait a year. They don't just update their listings once a year. There are 3 different places where iTunes is caching information, storing static information, storing dynamic information as though it's static, so that they don't have to consistently be running processes to go and see what this page should look like. So your listing page, like the actual page that is set up and designed specifically for your podcast, is your listing. All right. And they're not pulling that information from your RSS feed every single time somebody loads it. I mean, it'd be ludicrous with the hundreds of thousands of podcasts and the number of people who are searching for podcasts. It would be crazy on their servers if they did that. So what they do is they go and look at all the listings and they do that search and they keep it stored. Or actually once it's pulled up, it pulls it up and it stores that for about 24 to 48 hours at times. And so if you actually do a change of your artwork from your RSS feed, don't be surprised if it doesn't show up in your listing for 24 to 48 hours. All right. And the same thing is true they have search results. So sometimes you'll do a search for, and I've seen this so many times where people email me and say, hey, Cliff, I uploaded my new artwork just like you said. My listing page looks great, but when I search for my podcast, it still has the old information. And here's what's going on. The listing page, they cache those results sometimes within 24 to 48 hours. The search results can be actually cached somewhere between 2 to 7 days. And I've seen it as long as 14 days that they're actually caching those results. So it's going to take time for your image and your change of category. Now, that's a question I just got from Andy Traub recently, is that they changed one of his clients' categories from religion to business. And his listing showed the change, but his search, when you search for this guy's name, it shows his podcast, and it shows it under the category of religion. And that's what it originally was set up at. And I just thought, you guys just need to be patient. 7 to 14 days. If it hasn't changed then you can start worrying. But they're just caching their results. You have to wait until they actually reprocess their searches again and store them for the next time around. It's kind of like waiting for the Yellow Pages to do that. And I said there was 3 places. There's the listing, there's the search results. Actually, there's just 2 places. Those are the 2. Those are the 2 places where those things are cached. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question. Now, here's the situation. Now, the reason why I know that he did not have an image before, and he's adding an image for the first time to his feed, is because he said that he's just got the default iTunes logo guy. All right, now here's the situation. And I see this very often, and I've had this come up like 2 or 3 times, and it wasn't until the 3rd time I realized what was going on, where somebody had their artwork, and let's just say my artwork is, because I'm Podcast Answer Man, let's just say my artwork is at podcastanswerman.com/images/pam.jpg. That's my image. All right. Now, what's going on is I actually put that into my FeedBurner URL image. I go to FeedBurner, click on the feed for Podcast Answer Man. I click on the SmartCast option, and then I put in, podcastanswerman.com/images/pam.jpg, which, by the way, is not where my image is, by the way, and just in case you decide to look it up. But anyway, and then I click preview, and boom, sure enough, it's there. Well, what if I change my image to a different logo altogether? Well, let's just say I go ahead and keep the name pam.jpg, and I just replace the image that was there previously. And then I go over to FeedBurner, and I say preview, and lo and behold, because it still has podcastanswerman.com/images/jpg, when I click preview, it still pulls up the image. All right. And so everything appears to be fine. But I've had clients who have done exactly these steps. Now, I did not know that this is what they were doing. I did not know this. But this is exactly what they were doing. And they would update their image, and their listing wouldn't change. Their search results image that shows up in the search results wouldn't change. Nothing would change. And they're like, okay, Cliff, I've waited 2 weeks. Now it's been 3 weeks. Now it's been 4 weeks. And I'm like, something seems off here. And what happened was they were using the exact same file name at the same file URL. And somehow, some way, iTunes assumed that since it was the same URL for the image and nothing had changed, that they didn't need to actually go and pull the image. So they didn't actually go and pull the image again from the actual server. They just kept the one they already had, because obviously to them, it was the same image, that nothing has changed there because it's got the same exact file name with the same path. And so in that scenario, what I could do is actually do PAM-2 or PAM2 or PAM updated.jpg and upload that, change that in FeedBurner feed, and then within 24 to 48 hours, my listing will change, and within somewhere between a couple days all the way up to as many as 2 weeks, my search results will update to change. So Jason, hopefully that answers your question. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one more piece of audio feedback, and this comes from James. And I want to explain to you what I'm doing here. I've loaded up James's audio feedback just like I did Jason's, and it's on my iPhone ready to play. And I have with me right in front of me, I'm holding a cable. And this cable this cable's very short. I think it's probably about 18 inches long. And it has a 1/8 inch stereo jack on both ends. So I just plugged one end of this into my iPhone, so it's just into the headphones jack, and the other 1/8 inch jack I'm about ready to plug into the line-in port of the Roland recorder. Now, I am not going to do any post-production on this, but I am going to play James's feedback, and then I am going to comment on James's feedback, and I'm not going to have to do any editing at all. And let me explain to you how I'm doing this. And this is one of the reasons I love the pause button. Never buy a digital audio recorder without a pause button. It's just insane. I don't want to call anybody stupid, but it's just insane. Okay, so is calling somebody insane better than calling somebody stupid? No. And for those of you who have purchased a digital audio recorder and it doesn't have a pause button, it's not that you're insane or stupid. You were just ignorant of the fact that there are so many benefits of having a pause button. Okay, maybe I should edit that out, but I won't. So anyway, what I'm going to do is as soon as I'm done talking and I say, hey, James, take it away, I'm going to hit the pause button. I'm then going to plug in, and it's going to, my recorder is still going to be in standby record mode, and I'm still going to be able to preview things. So I'm going to plug in the 1/8 inch jack into the line in port. I'm going to play James's feedback, verifying the audio levels are just right. I'm going to stop that. And once I'm positive the audio levels are right, I'm then going to unpause, hit play, let James say whatever James is going to say. Then I'm going to pause the recording as soon as he's done. And then I'm going to unplug the 1/8 inch jack from my recorder. And then I'm going to make sure my audio levels are right back to where they are now or somewhere close to it that sound good. And then I'm going to respond, and I'm not going to have to do any post-production. So I'll tell you what, James, take it away.
Hello, Cliff. This is James Festini from jamesfestini.com. Hey, I wanted to make a confession to you today. I'm a fool. I should have listened to you in the first place and signed up with all of your products and gone through you exclusively when it came time to launch my podcasting ambitions. I spent well over $1,000 when I could have probably pulled it off for $500 or $600 if I had just listened to you. So now I sit in front of my beautiful Heil PR40, which is actually the only thing I got at a good discount on sale. But otherwise, all of the time and equipment that I bought into and threw away and put in a closet, I should have gone through you. So this is a testimony to anybody who's considering cutting corners and thinking they're going to get out of this cheap and with quality. I don't recommend it. Just go ahead and cut the check out to Cliff and make sure that he is the one that guides you from A to Z. Thank you.
Well, James, thank you so much for the feedback. Wow, what an encouraging piece of testimonial. And you're absolutely right. You can do podcasting on the cheap, and I have nothing against people who do that, especially those who are wanting to start out as a hobby. But there's certainly, when it comes to quality, there are some things that you can do. And I'm hopefully demonstrating to people right here, right now, that you can start off with an initial investment of just a digital audio recorder and do so much. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and let the music start right now. I'm not even hearing the music, but there it is in the background, my friends. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the podcast Answer Man. Sounds completely different than what you're normally used to hearing, but you know what? I still produced a full professional podcast episode here for Podcast Answer Man. Still valuable, still informative, still gives great value, and I have no doubt that this episode will be a favorite of many. Guys, thank you so much, and if you haven't done so already, tell somebody else about learnhowtopodcast.com. And I want to let people know that my next course for Podcasting A to Z is coming up in November. And I think I'm actually going to officially announce right now for the very first time that is actually going to start on Tuesday, November 1st. And it's going to be awesome. So I hope that you guys will join me if you haven't done so already in the Podcasting A to Z, but you've been thinking about it. So get in now. And let me know. I'll touch base with you. Just send me an email, cliff@podcastanswerman.com, if you want to be in there. Anyway, more details on all that stuff coming soon. Thank you for tuning in. Gotta go. God bless you all. Until next time, take your show to the next level.